We are in Rio Negro, a county in San Gabriel de Cachoeira, 600 miles away from Manaus.
This site gives us a 360-degree view of the sky without any sort of light pollution.
For all of them, and for the ancient cultures, Earth is nothing more than an imperfect reflection of the sky. It was extremely important to look at the stars and talk of their myths.
We're the odd consciousness in a vast cosmic void of meaning.
For all people here, stars served as their main guide prior to the Spanish invasion.
A state-of-the-art camera has recently been installed in this telescope to unravel the mysteries of dark energy which make up the universe.
What can push the whole universe? That is what we now call dark energy.
Is our destiny written in the stars? To what extent does the movement of stars in the sky influence our lives? Leading scientists, thinkers, and philosophers will help us find the answer to these questions. We will travel to the Amazon to meet indigenous people who still keep their ancient traditions alive and govern their everyday lives by the stars. We will also visit a modern observatory that explores the mysteries of dark energy. We begin this adventure in Colombia to learn the influence the cosmos have over our lives. We are traveling with Germán Puerta, scientific director of the Planetarium of Bogotá, who is an enthusiastic communicator of the secrets of astronomy. We journey towards Villa de Leyva, one of the most beautiful towns in Colombia. There is an imposing sight in its surroundings, which highlights the vast significance given to the stars by native cultures of the region.
We are in Villa de Leyva. This place is very popular with tourists since it has so many aspects that are interesting for visitors. First, there is the colonial aspect. It is very old and was established in 1556. There is also the theme of paleontology, because this area was a seabed millions of years ago and many fossils can be found here. It is an extraordinary region for all kinds of ecological tourism, trekking, etc. In short, many visitors come to Villa de Leyva.
Just 3 miles away from Villa de Leyva, we find the Monquira Archaeological Park. This is a pre-Columbian site that hides important mysteries about the cosmology of the Muisca peoples.
We stand at the Muisca Observatory of San Canzipa, better known as El Infornito. This name was given by the Spaniards due to the certain phallic structures which seemed demon-like to them. Undoubtedly, the structures represented a very important temple. Nearby, 200 meters away from here, there is a river, so this place had abundant water. It is a fertile area, and agriculture is very important to the Muisca nation. So besides being a temple, or important religious site, a meeting place, it was also a village. The alignment between columns found here has two main characteristics. The first is that they point to a place over the mountains, where the sun rises during the equinox, which happens twice a year, on the 21st of March and the 21st of September. It is the only time of the year when the day and night have the same length, and it is important for all changes in calendars. The second feature is that it points exactly towards the location of the sacred lagoon of the Muisca nation, called Laguna de Huaque, the place where Muisca people appeared, and the site of the Bachue legend. According to the legend, the mother goddess appears in this lagoon with a 3-year-old boy whose name is unknown to us. The boy then grows up and marries his mother, and they have many, many children. They are very fertile and populate the entire Muisca nation. Later on, when they are old, they return to the lagoon, transformed into serpents.
Nos encontramos aquí en el área de las columnas fálicas.
Here we are in the area where the phallic columns are located. Undoubtedly, they are a symbol and represent fertility of Earth. These phallic columns can be found in two ways. One is pointing at the sun, and eventually they would be turned and placed inside the Earth, representing fertility. Therefore, both the feminine and the masculine are intimately linked within these symbols. Both the feminine side, which is Earth, and the masculine side, which is represented by the sun. Let us imagine for a moment that we are living in the time of the Muisca civilization. This site provides a 360-degree view of the sky, without any sort of light pollution. We can suppose that the celestial vault must have been something really impressive. To watch all those luminous points. But the Muisca didn't know what they were. In ancient times, the whole sky was an enigma, for all ancient inhabitants, and for the Muisca people too, of course. Another thing that we must keep in mind is that for indigenous cultures in America, human beings are part of nature. They are not isolated or separated from nature. It is not as if nature is over there and humans are over here. In fact, humans are part of it. There is no division. So we must understand that for the Muisca nation, the sky, the earth, and them are the same. They are whole.
The next step of our journey is to the very heart of the Brazilian Amazon. We will travel with astronomer Hermano Afonso to visit isolated indigenous communities in order to discover their view of the sky and stars.
We are in Rio Negro, a county in San Gabriel de Cachoeira, 600 miles away from Manaus. We are traveling to visit an indigenous community that lives in San Giorgio, and they are a Tucano community. There, the Federal Institute for Science and Technology in Amazonia is lending us a building to work with indigenous communities in education initiatives.
Nessa comunidade. Para o documentário que estamos realizando, é muito importante vir nessa comunidade.
It is very important to visit that community, since we are traveling with some students from the Federal Institute who are majoring in intercultural relations and physics. They are very interested in astronomy, especially in the astronomy of their own culture.
Bom dia. Seu Libório, eu vi ali a sua fazenda ali.
Tá todo mundo bonito aí? Todo mundo bonito aí?
Merece.
Quero pintar meu rosto.
Tá vendo que tem isso?
Senhora, vem.
For indigenous people throughout Brazil, and all ancient civilizations before science began, it was extremely important to look at the stars and talk of their myths, in order to learn from them and apply them to all activities on Earth. That remains valid up to this day, for the majority of indigenous people in Brazil.
Então nós estamos falando assim, professor Germano, que agora nós vamos batizar primeiro para os senhores que vocês estão chegando, né? Vocês sempre chegaram, por favor da nossa comunidade, nossa população, né? Então, na primeira coisa, nós vamos batizar vocês, né? Que vai falar o nome de vocês, o nome tradicional.
E até a cerimônia do batismo que nós estamos.
The ceremony of baptism is a sacred rite. For all of them, and for the ancient cultures, Earth is nothing more than an imperfect reflection of the sky. Therefore, they're here on Earth to carry out what they see in the sky.
Vimos crianças bem pequenininhas.
We can see very small children dancing with joy, and that gives us hope that this culture will not fade away.
Today we're going to discuss what month we are in. It is November and we can see the constellation of the Serpent.
Indigenous people have three types of calendars: solar, lunar, and the one of the constellation of stars. The one they use most is that of the stars. The first characteristic is that all ethnicities in Brazil, which are numerous, take as a reference the stars of the Milky Way to make up their constellations.
In the month of August, the constellation that appears is called the Heron, and during that time, the animals that appear.
They divide the Milky Way into different sections, with several imaginary animals. The advantage in comparison to the Western calendar is that they feature animals that exist in Brazil. They are associated with the time of the year or the season in which they appear or disappear. It is indigenous knowledge which we, the astronomers, can help rescue and preserve. We are also realizing that many things in their present can also be a contribution to us as well. What's key here is to incorporate the indigenous knowledge with ours as well, to be better fitted for survival here on Earth. We are in the Amazon, in San Gabriel de Cachoeira. For those who are fond of studying ethno-astronomy, I think this is the richest place in the world for that kind of research. We find various indigenous groups. In the morning we can speak to one group, in the afternoon to another, and each of them has a different perspective of the world. It is very enriching for anyone interested in cultural diversity.
We are continuing our journey through the Brazilian Amazon along with Hermano Afonso. We travel to a community called Baniwa, an indigenous tribe that lives on the frontier of Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela. It is estimated that around 12,000 inhabitants from this Amazon ethnicity are living here, distributed among hundreds of communities. Like the Tucano, their lives are closely linked with the sky. It is a tradition that Hermano is hoping to learn from and preserve.
We are in the indigenous community of Itacoatiara Merim, who are a Baniwa community. The definition of a constellation is different since, in general, it is the assembly of stars. Indigenous people use the clear and dark spots of the Milky Way to design their constellations. They see a real stripe upon the sky formed by stars, which we will call the Milky Way. For indigenous communities, it is associated with the spirits and with their gods. This is a Western calendar, but there is also an indigenous calendar.
Aqui nós começamos a esse que nosso avô ensina, estrela.
This teaches us about the stars, so that people know on which day to start working. If it appears through that spot, it is harvesting time.
Velhos fala, agora esse tempo de roçar.
The main constellations are found within the stripe, which people can easily identify in the sky. The advantage is that it is easy to find that stripe and then find the constellation. They have to use their imagination, but not too much, since everything belongs to the flora and fauna of Brazil. For example, in the Western calendar, we talk of the Aquarius constellation. That means that first, people would need to know what it is. It is a mythological figure, which is difficult to visualize. Even for a professional astronomer, it is difficult to imagine it in the sky. But when we refer to the local flora and fauna, it is linked and very closely associated to our culture. Besides, it coincides to the time of year or seasons when these animals or those plants appear on Earth. there is a relationship between the earth and the sky.
We are traveling to the capital of Chile to become acquainted with the Septical Association, a group of people who foster science and reason. The members of this group oppose what they refer to as pseudo-scientific statements that are superstitious and irrational in society.
Well, my dear friends, today we have a very special program. We will discuss scientific outreach, astronomy, and some issues regarding pseudoscience will be discussed and addressed. Tonight, our guest speaker is someone you already know, so I give the floor to Professor Fernando Frias.
Hello, good evening. Here I am in this program once more. I will discuss astronomy, a beautiful issue, because astronomy is a science that has opened, or rather has given mankind perspective on its place in regards to the universe. I think it is the first science that showed us that we are not at the center of the universe.
What we've been doing for around 3 years now here in Chile is to foster doubt, skepticism, and free thinking. One of our greatest motivations is to look at the other side of things. We are a rational alternative facing the rise of pseudoscience in the media, mainly on radio and TV, so that's our main goal. To be the dissenting opinion, a critical opinion, to promote some doubt so that we can think for ourselves, developing critical thinking and be better informed, and also to have arguments against the influence of pseudoscience in Chilean society. Well, just to show you something. What we are going to do is take several newspapers from different countries and read the horoscope section in order to compare. Compare whether astrology, which is said to be a science, is really effective and truthful as people believe it to be. If that were the case, there would be some similarity between the different horoscopes in different countries. We shall look at Taurus, which is my sign. Under Taurus, for instance, it says, "Do not give false hopes to your partner, take better care of your money, and avoid too many expenses." If we see another journal and look at the same sign, we find the following. The next days will be crucial for your job. There will be new proposals that will be very important for your life. This will be a good period for your professional activity, but pay attention to your body and take care of your health. When you analyze from the point of view of language, what is being expressed is ambiguous and can be applied in a general way. It says nothing, really. In the end, the secret lies in telling people not what you know about them, but what they would like to hear. Astrology has the wrong idea that the sun and the planets remain in the same place. But that changes every year by movements of the planets, by the movement of the equinox. That is, a person who is born, say, in Scorpio in 1924 is not the same as a Scorpio in 2013. On the other hand, astrology has never discovered anything up to this day. After hundreds of centuries, it has never discovered anything important. We need astronomy so that Uranus could be discovered in 1781, for example, or Neptune in 1846, and Pluto in 1930. Science discovered those planets. If you want to look for predictions, The best thing would be to have some astronomical software in order to know when the next eclipse will happen, or when the next appearance or disappearance of a comet or whatever will take place. That is far more interesting and more impressive than to guide us by superstitions and horoscopes. Hello, good evening. How are you, girls? As you know, last week I asked each one of you to give me your birth date, your age, and here I want to show you, after a week of work, that I managed to get your astrological charts. So now, I will hand them over to you, and do not open them until I tell you to do so, okay? Everyone who clearly knows their zodiac sign, raise their hands. What I want you to do now is for each one of you to open your respective charts without watching the others and take a couple of minutes to read it. And let me know now, how many of you can give a grade according to the number of correct guesses in the predictions that you read that's above a 4, for example? Would you please read aloud, for instance, the first part of your astrological chart?
The characteristics of this sign are sensibility and imagination.
Although you have some failures in your personality, you are usually able to compensate with a good attitude.
Ahí veo que te estás riendo tú ya te estás dando cuenta de lo que está pasando, ¿no? ¿Pueden abrir toda su carta?
Lo mismo, son todas iguales.
¿Qué acaba de pasar?
Son todas iguales.
Hoy, ante ese texto que ustedes acaban de leer y dándose cuenta.
Today, with these texts you have read and prove that they are all alike, what happened? It seems that all of us, you and I, each time we carry out this experiment somewhere else, the same thing occurs. We give excessive importance to the statements that appear there, and as you realized, they are vague and ambiguous.
I thought that the astrological charts would be more personal, that there would be something in particular for each one.
I think that people believe in horoscopes because they need a few words during the day that say that things will go well. It gives them hope.
I was reading and thinking, I don't think this is a good definition of me. But then I thought, well, if the astrological chart says so, perhaps it's true. So I think you become persuaded because you trust.
Lo que pasa que la astrología.
What happens is that astrology and astronomy have a lot in common, like good friends. The spelling is quite similar, isn't it? But they vary in the sense that they started as a study. Both began by observing stars. The difference between astronomy and astrology is that astrology has never been a model for predicting anything. On the other hand, astronomy has. The idea is for you to be able to understand that science is truly amazing.
On the newspaper, I always go to the last page and think, please, please, let it say something good, please.
My mom always says, oh, we get along badly because we're from the same sign. And I say, come on, that's not true.
We've asked astronomer Jose Massa for help in probing the world of astrology.
Venimos hoy día a hablar con Gonzalo Pérez.
Today we're going to speak with Gonzalo Pérez, a psychologist and astrologist, who will explain to us how it is that we perceive astrology. As an astronomer, I'm of course skeptical about what astrologists may believe. They believe in things that I don't. Still, we'll visit him and listen to his point of view.
José, yo soy Gonzalo, hola. Gracias. Adelante.
Well, I've come to learn, as a student, to hear what astrology can teach us today. I've taught history of astronomy at the university for many years. However, contemporary astrology is beyond my scope.
I didn't start studying astrology through astronomy at all, but actually it was due to my own interest on learning more about the soul. Therefore, I studied psychology at the University of Chile, where I also learned about science. But I was interested in researching the mystery within. After the scientific school of psychology, let us call it that way, I discovered that there is an ancient know-how which provides a full Pythagorean view of the soul, where mathematics are pure order itself, called astrology.
When one reads the so-called primitive cosmogonies, 99% of the ideas contained within them came from the people who conceived them, and no more than 1% of what was really out there.
What I say is that your knowledge, which is supposed to be objective, is also a speculation. It is related to the structures of your mind. It is related with structures. Data are data. Cosmogony is not data. It is an interpretation. Yes, of course, yours and mine. We reached the same point.
In ancient times, people didn't understand anything about the sky. For example, the Greeks thought that the sun was as large as the Peloponnesus. In Egyptian cosmology, the sky was elongated in a north-south direction, and the sky had a vault containing stars, and the river Nile ran through the middle of the universe.
You are not taking into account the data of the soul. You are only talking as if...
No.
Let's
because
start
I don't
from
understand anything about the soul.
Let's start from there.
What I'm trying to say, around 2,000 years ago, during equinox, the sun's vernal point was in Aries. But nowadays, the vernal point is in the middle of the constellation of Pisces. So, strangely, when the sun is in Pisces, what today is defined as Pisces in the constellation for astrologers, it's actually in Aries. For me, at least, I find that strange. That's when astrology coincided, this hypothetical astrological zodiac, with the astronomical zodiac. Then the other remained fixed, while the astronomical zodiac continues to move. It just seems strange to me.
Obviously, it would seem strange to you, but, in fact, it moves differently from the way you think it does.
Well, thinking is the only tool I have. There's no other way.
Synchrony takes place when two phenomena occur simultaneously, obviously related with each other, but with no reason, explicit issue, nor logical reason that can explain it. It is what we call coincidence in our daily experience. Astrology is that, precisely, the study of coincidence.
La astrología es eso, el estudio del coincidir.
Autumn and winter would be awful in these places if we didn't know that spring would return. For sure. The sky has that. It gives a sensation of permanent perfection. All ancient cultures, as mentioned before, would organize, make a system, an explanation, their myths regarding what human life is, what reality is. Always in connection with the stars, planetary cycles, the cycles of the moon and the sun. In your way of thinking, there is no room for synchronism, and astrology is sheer synchronism.
Well, we've had an interesting conversation. In some points more productive than in others. It's not easy for two worlds that walk separate paths to reach a point where they meet. Obviously, through conversation, we can realize that what Gonzalo is stating is related to the soul. And that is an interpretive art, a study on interpretations.
Un arte interpretativo es un estudio sobre interpretaciones, la astronomía.
Astronomy deals with the retrieval of data. So, it was interesting, but I don't believe it is very likely that these two worlds can meet.
We are traveling to the United States to meet Richard Tarnas, a cultural historian and professor of philosophy. He is the author of the book Cosmos and Psyche. In his book, Tarnas states that there is a correlation between the movement of the planets in the sky and certain key periods of human history, particularly those of crisis and revolution. It is a controversial idea that is largely rejected by the international scientific community.
Idea of the archetype comes out of philosophy and ancient Greek philosophy. It was rediscovered in the 20th century in psychology by Jung in particular, Freud too, but particularly Jung. And then there was a whole movement within psychology that is called archetypal psychology. And Jung himself, he paid attention to how ancient esoteric systems like astrology, alchemy, the I Ching from China, he felt they had something to say to us. And this is quite a surprise for the modern mind. We all basically came to the surprising conclusion that the world is more mysterious than the modern mind thought. For example, there is an alignment of planets in the sky now that is very similar to the one that happened during the 1960s. And that alignment, each time it happened during the French Revolution as well. When these two planets come together, it happens to be Uranus and Pluto, that tend to be characterized by very powerful activations of a revolutionary impulse, a desire for radical change. Everything breathes together. Everything is interconnected. The stars, human soul, the movements of the birds, everything breathes together. But it does suggest that the world is ensouled, that the cosmos has an anima mundi. It's enchanted, it's ensouled. It's not just random matter and energy. One thing to keep in mind is that the modern civilization is the only one in all of known human history that did not believe that the universe was filled with larger meaning and purpose. And the modern self has gone on a journey where in some ways it lost that feeling of being at home. We feel more like we are an oddity in the we're the odd consciousness in a vast cosmic void of meaning. It's as if the universe has been waiting for us to rediscover its deeper mystery. That in some sense we got narrowed into a more narrow vision of reality. It's not a full view. And I think we're going through a kind of rite of passage, a kind of death rebirth, even facing our mortality on the planetary scale with the deep ecological crisis is part of this deep transformation that I feel we're going through. Mainstream science is a very, very powerful and noble enterprise that has revealed so much about the world, that has increased our sense of wonder and appreciation about it. But just like a religion, science too can get locked into a narrow set of doctrines about what is believed to be possible. The difference between the astrology that is in the newspapers, or the horoscope columns, that's like a caricature, a cartoon version of the profound archetypal astrology that I've been talking about. My sense is that, in a way, astrology at its best is a kind of treasure that is hidden beneath this appearance of being a ludicrous popular entertainment in the newspaper. But behind that veil is something much deeper, much more profound, and it's very intellectually satisfying. In fact, I find the greater the intelligence and scholarship that one brings to the study, the more fulfilling are the results of the study.
Our last destination is Valle del Elqui in the region of Coquimbo in Chile. This area is home to many modern astronomical observatories, but it is also full of mystically minded people and witch doctors. We are attending a meeting of Latin American shamans.
Muy buenos días.
Good morning. We are spiritual guides from Bolivia. We are coming with you to share these practices of wisdom which come from our ancestors.
Estas prácticas de sabiduría de nuestros antepasados. Definitivamente
Well, definitely in the cosmic vision of Andean, Amazon, and coastal peoples, for all people here, stars served as their main guide prior to the Spanish invasion.
Antes de la invasión española, el principal guía siempre ha sido las estrellas. Yapunaka yapushta sinyataki, kamaraki, uiwanaka uiwasta sinyataki, koyana chil, akawanaka humaro maitas nipta.
Humankind has forgotten some very important things regarding our creation, our being, our existence. Why are we here on Earth? What we have forgotten, particularly, is that the Earth is our mother and it is a living being. When we forget that and we do not see it as a living being any longer, as a mother, well, we drift apart from her. In ancient times, people loved the stars and they began to study the stars. That is the reason why we have a great appreciation towards the moon, the stars like Venus, the planets, the Pleiades, our Father, the Sun, whom we place at the center of our creation, of our beliefs. When you start to identify with the sky, with the landscape of the sky, the origin of the sky, we merge two worlds, the love for the earth and for the sky.
The Elqui Valley has some of the clearest skies on the planet. The experience of observing stars at night has not only attracted men and women in search of a mystical experience, but also many professional astronomers who have turned this land into their central base of operations to explore the mystery of the universe.
Aquí estamos en el valle del río Elqui.
We're here in the Valle del Río Elqui, 300 miles north of the capital, Santiago. This valley is known for having very rich land for agriculture. an excellent climate, and people ascribe energetic qualities to the valley. On the high areas of the valley, there are communities who engage in meditation and other types of skills. But this valley is truly a place for launching astronomy in Chile. We are visiting Cerro Tololo to watch the stars of the Chilean sky from this beautiful valley.
We head towards Cerro Tololo and Jimeni, operated by Aura, an international consortium of universities. These two modern astronomical observatories are located a short distance from each other.
Estamos frente al telescopio Gemini.
We're in front of the Gemini telescope, where a modern device is being installed, which will enable us to see for the first time planets orbiting other stars. Astronomers have recently discovered over 1,000 planets, thanks in part to the indirect effect that planets have on stars. Now, for the first time, we'll be able to watch planets that orbit around other stars in a direct way.
Este es el telescopio Gemini Sur.
This is the Gemini South telescope, which measures 8 meters in diameter. The Gemini project consists of two similar telescopes. One is installed in Hawaii, the big island of Hawaii. The other is installed here, in Cerro Pachón, very close by Cerro Tololo. Both telescopes are part of an international project involving many countries that will give us the opportunity to observe, for the first time, the entire sky, from the North Pole to the South Pole, with 8-meter class instruments. These are not the twins in the sky. They are not Castor and Pollux. It's simply a play of words given by astronomers in the last decade to the largest project in the United States. Here, we're going towards Cerro Tololo and Cerro Pachón, the two large cosmic eyes of the Elqui Valley. Cerro Tololo is located at an altitude of 7,200 feet above sea level, and Cerro Pachón at 8,500 feet above sea level. They say that Tololo means in front of the abyss, facing the abyss of the Elqui Valley, but also facing the abyss of this cosmic ocean that surrounds us for 250 nights a year.
From Cerro Tololo, astronomers have observed the violent death of hundreds of stars known as supernovas. These observations enabled the discovery of the accelerated expansion of the universe due to a mysterious dark energy.
Con el telescopio que tengo a mis espaldas,
the telescope behind me was used for one of the greatest discoveries of contemporary cosmology. The universe is accelerating on a large scale. What causes this acceleration? There's an energy that comes from space. To study that puzzle, a state-of-the-art camera has recently been installed in this telescope. It will help unravel the mysteries of dark energy that make up the universe.
Near Tololo, a new megatelescope is being built to unravel the mystery of dark energy.
LSST is a project to map the sky, map the whole sky. The idea is that LSST will create a digital universe, mapping the sky every 3 or 4 nights for 360 nights a year for 10 years. So the telescope itself will be an 8.4 meter telescope. That's roughly the cutting edge today. Of course, in the next decade, we're looking at 30 or 40 meter telescopes. So it's not going to be the biggest telescope in the world, but it will be the biggest data producer. We're building the LSST at the site of the discovery of dark energy itself. Both teams that participated in the Nobel Prize in 2011 used the Blanco 4-meter telescope to search for supernova, search for these exploding stars, and use them as distance measurements, as yardsticks, shall we say, to measure the size of the universe. And then the question came, well, what can cause that acceleration? What can push the whole universe? And that is what we now call dark energy, which we don't have the answer to that question. What can push the universe to accelerate? We don't have the answer, and that's the reason why we call it dark energy, is because we don't know. Dark is simply, in astronomical terms, we don't know.